Did you know that your running posture can massively affect your running speed, your running efficiency, and actually have a demonstrable link into injury prevention? Looking at your posture is one of the critical components of the all-round runner. And for beginners in this particular series, as we're looking at how to run for beginners, posture becomes a very critical component to practice before you even try and tackle anything else. My name is Whitby. Welcome to Aspiring Runners. So in this video, in this installment of the series, I'm going to be looking at running posture. And running posture is the sum total of your body and its physical distribution within the running environment. And the first thing you've got to look at is probably a top-down approach, because from the top, everything else will fall into the alignment that you're looking for. And of course, there's lots of different theories out there about what is the best thing to achieve. And from the outset, what I'd say is you've got to try these things, and maybe your body can adapt into it. But it's also about trying to seek comfort about your current system and where it's at. And I think by trialing a number of the elements within the greater series, especially when we're looking at core strengthening exercises, that you'll find the posture may subtly change into the form that you're after. But herein, go through the basic concepts of the running posture, starting with the head. The head, of course, it needs to be upright and looking forwards. And it's not to say that you can't look down, but you've got to be able to keep that diaphragm open, keep the airways open, so your head is not slumped too far forward, restricting the breathing, not too far back. You're going to start jarring the neck. So it's upright, looking forwards, and maintaining a tall stance as best as you can. Lots of tree roots. Second point is working down, looking at the shoulders, or to the neck and shoulders. Some of us think through our work, become quite habitual in slumping a bit. Maybe we're working at a desk, we just tend to hunch over. Got to make sure that the shoulders are back, not so far back that you're trying to spread wings, but they're upright, they're not slumped down. As soon as you start slumping those shoulders down, you're going to close off the rib cage. It's going to be harder to expand against the position that you're taking. So if you slump down, very difficult to take breath. So having your shoulders back, upright, just allows the breathing to continue more easily. The arms, again, there's a lot of variety out there, and different advice that is given. And when I say a lot of variety, if you have a look at the 2012 Olympics 5K final, won by Mo Farah, amazing performance. But if you have a look at the sum total of runners that are there and how they choose to hold their arms, some of them have very low arm actions. So they barely raise their arms, and having the angle at the elbow greater than 90 degrees. Others are very sharp. And then some in between. And what you can see is how that angle varies in terms of the break angle at your elbow. Depends on the comfort of your running style. So you have to find what works for you. But generally, the advice is that your arms are somewhere in between the two extremes, but they are coming up, not above the neckline, but at least they're coming above the waistline. And a lot of the arm motion is done to help you propel forward and to naturally rotate. So as you're pushing off from one leg to the other leg, your arm is being driven through the rotation of your body that actually help you propel forwards into your next step. Oh, hitting a bit of a steep hill and lots of detritus on the floor. So we'll get there. Now, what you'll also find is that your arm action does tend to change depending on the speed that you're running at. At slow speeds, you may find that your arm doesn't actually rise up, doesn't feel like it needs to rise up all that high. But as you increase the speed, this is where I'm going to refer you to another YouTube video looking at the running gait, the running posture at 3 different speeds, and the link is going to be down below. But as you increase the speed, you can see that the arm action does come up to almost neckline, and just to help propel the body, trying to get a natural efficiency over the different limbs that are in motion, getting yourself running forward as quickly as possible. So with that done with the arms, got to look at the back. Now the back needs to be as straight as you could possibly get it, bearing in mind that there is natural curvature within the spine, but you don't want to be trying to arch too far back. And again, this can really affect the breathing at the front of the chest if you're too far back, and as you begin to bounce through the running stride, you'll end up jarring that lower back, causing all sorts of issues. Equally, you don't want to be too far forward, so again, slumping forward, you end up closing off those airways as well. So trying to overall stand tall, keeping the back as nice and straight as possible, with the head looking forward. Now your back actually works in conjunction, the lower back muscles, in conjunction with your stomach. And this is where the core strengthening exercises come into play. So by the strengthening exercises and conditioning that you do at the front of the body, it's matched by what you can do at the back of the body here. And together, they work in unison to try and give you that upright stance, allowing better efficiency through the running. Your hips, I've read some interesting advice where some say you should be using your stomach more to pull your hips forward, kind of curving your hips forward rather than trying to push them back. Now I've done a bit of running, and I've got to say I think it's all down to personal preference as far as I can tell. But maybe if there's somebody out there that can explain the biomechanics and the efficiency improvements of angling those hips, I think as beginner runners, as I say, you've just got to try these things and see what works for you. Try not to make too many drastic changes too quickly, but just to break it down and do a little bit each run over several weeks of running. So from the hips, got to work down until we get to the legs. Hopefully they'll be underneath you, and at the bottom legs you'll have your feet. Now the legs will be the projection from your hips and your back, the upper body. Hopefully that's all in alignment. The legs will find out where to go. But you still, when you're hitting the floor, have a lot of control about where you're placing your feet. And that comes with how big a distance you're trying to kick out in your runs. A lot of people say that if you want to go faster, you've got to have a much longer running stride length. You've got a longer running stride length. The problem is that if you don't have it within your capabilities, as your foot comes down, you'll strike with the ankle first, with the heel first, and then come down to the midsole, and then push off from the foresole, and then going forward. The problem with striking with the heel first is that you can end up with an awful lot of injuries, but not just the injuries, which you really want to avoid. Try and get into the good habits of running. It's also something that will prevent you in your forward motion. It will act against the forward stride. You put your foot down, and all that momentum will be impacted by hitting with the heel first. So as they all say, try and get that midsole strike as best as you can. If you're in any doubt at all about this, of course, get in touch and we'll go through it. We'll go find your email, we'll link up, we'll sort it out, or just exchange comments down below. But equally, you could go along to a decent, reputable running store and they'll take you through the running gait. Even better if they actually have the equipment that can analyse your running gait and be able to make recommendations about the kind of footwear that you need. So if we've got the foot strikes correct, landing on the midsole, coming through, we're not extending too far, that actually, as we land, the foot is almost beneath us, so we're coming through. But again, if you look at the 5k Olympic final from 2012, you'll see that actually the foot is just slightly in front of most of the runners as it comes down. And on the slow mode, you can see that there is a tiny bit of heel strike, which I think comes probably from the cushioning within the trainers itself. Now the final piece of the puzzle, often neglected, very important to talk about, is going to be the toes. The toes are the last critical component because they do perform a very vital function in stabilising your launch pad. So when you're running, as you strike with the midfoot, you then roll over to the front of the foot, and then it'll be pushing off from the toe box, or just underneath the toe box area. So it is important to ensure that your big toe, at least, is not scrunched up. You're not keeping that so tight against the other toes that you're then restricting the movement of the foot through the launching process. Now again, hopefully it comes down to you having selected the right trainers, and there needs to be at least a finger's width distance between the end of your running trainer and your big toe. So you can do a quick test. Again, if in doubt, go find yourself a professional. Now, with these particular components all said and done, as I've reiterated from the previous video, you've got to get out there and look at these individual aspects, put them together, and then practice. And it probably will be paying you greater dividends by sorting out the basics first than trying to launch yourself into an aspirational target where you then have to come back and look at it again in a year or 2 years or more. And I can speak from experience out of that one. So if you found this useful, please click on subscribe, hit that bell notification so that you can be notified for the next releases of the videos in this particular series of how to run for beginners. And then please comment down below. I'd love to know what your thoughts are about running posture, what you found that is critical for you, things that you've come across that you've had to change, or things that just take for granted that are just vitally important that you see other runners doing and been a little bit too afraid to point out to them. Whatever it is, please just comment down below. We'll stay in touch. Well, thanks for listening, and catch you next time on Aspiring Runners. Take care.